And what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth. It's really great to have you guys here today on this fine Tuesday morning. Had it off yesterday, was able to get the show up from Friday up, so we were able to hopefully tune in and watch that. I was experiencing some audio issues, so hopefully those are resolved, because I went over the wild card standings and I talked about the top performers from Friday, and when I went back and listened to the show, there was no audio when I had graphics up. It was just some audio issues, but we were able to resolve that, and hopefully the show goes smoothly. And this is the first time the show is actually streaming live. We've been doing private streams just to work out the kinks and everything with the software that we've been using for the show. So this is the real launch for this. So we're really looking forward to this. But before we get into the show, like I said, the GSMC Baseball Podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And one of the important things is to tip or donate to the program and get your comments recognized. Go to streamelements.com/GSMC sportsnetwork./tip. This is really important. It helps the show. And it's for bonus coverage materials that are not on this broadcast. Go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network, and that's where you can donate. And so today we have a great show for you guys. So opening up the show, as you can see on the bottom, we'll be talking about current news and headlines surrounding Major League Baseball, so I'll get into that. In the second segment, I'll go over the Yankees-Red-Sox rivalry and why I think it's not the same as it once was, as both teams will be playing each other a 4-game set. They got rained out last night. I know I put out a short saying, talking about it and saying they're going to play, but the weather was very bad, and so they weren't able to get that in. I was actually in Massachusetts this weekend for my cousin's wedding, so I got to experience some of that bad weather, but we were able to get it in, and everything was fine. The wedding was great, a lot of fun, and so that was basically my weekend, and the Yankees were there. We were there at the same time for a little bit, but we both got to experience the bad weather, especially coming home. So that'll be the second segment. Third segment, we'll be talking about the scores from over the weekend. And then in the final segment, we'll go over the current standings and where everything kind of sits going into today. And again, got a couple weeks left before the playoffs start. So things are starting to ramp up. And so let's dive into the first segment, kind of going over some of the latest headlines surrounding Major League Baseball. So actually, one of the things I just saw, and it's regarding Blue Jays pitcher Alek Manoah. So this is a guy that was a really good pitcher, a Cy Young, candidate, I would say, last year. And this year, he really just was awful. And he did kind of, throw some shade at Garrett Cole, calling him the biggest cheater in Major League Baseball history or something along the lines of that. But it's being reported that when they sent him down to AAA again, he was optioned on August 11th, and this is from Talking Baseball, so the Talking Yanks, those guys, John Boy, all those guys. So he was optioned on August 11th, and he never reported to AAA. And he hasn't even been throwing bullpen sessions or anything. And supposedly it's unlikely that he's ever going to pitch again for the Blue Jays. Well, at least this season. And it's a messy situation because, again, this guy was a really good pitcher. And all of a sudden, this year, everything kind of just fell off. So I'm going to pull up his stats right now. And again, like I said, he threw some shade at Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole's having, one of his best years, at the expense of the Yankees not making the playoffs. And, so it's been a rough ride for him this season. So I'm pulling up his stats right now. So right now, on the season, he's 3-9 with a 5.87 ERA, and his walks and hits per inning is 1.74. So that is not what you want. He really has had a rough go. Because if you look at his stats from last year, if ESPN will allow me, and last year he was 16-7. He had a 2.24 ERA. His whip was just below 1. It was at .99. He had 180 strikeouts. This year he only has 79. Just not very good. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I really don't, because it doesn't make sense how he goes from pitching really well to now this. But you see that all the time with some guys. I mean, look at Luis Severino. And that will kind of transition into that. So Luis Severino was pitching a very good game against the Brewers last week, and threw a pitch and felt something in his back, and he got taken out of the game immediately, and he's going to be on the IL for the rest of the season, and that's probably it for his Yankee career, which is, it really is, unfortunate to see, because this was a guy that came up through the Yankee system, and he really came on in 2017, because 2015 he came up, made a few starts, and then 2016 was kind of a mess. It was a mixed bag. They had to use him as a reliever because he just wasn't pitching well as a starter. And 2017 he was a Cy Young candidate. 2018, the first half of the year he was really good, and then all of a sudden, the second half he wasn't as effective. 2019 really didn't make a lot of starts, dealing with injuries the whole year. Missed 2020, missed pretty much all of 2021. Suffering Tommy John, so he missed a lot of time with that. Last year he was pretty effective when he pitched, but still he dealt with the latch strain. He was out a few times last year, and then this year, first couple of starts he was pretty good. Then against the Dodgers he had a rough first inning, and then it just was downhill after that. And then he actually pitched decent. Not this. Well, this start he actually was pretty good. The start against the Astros was a little rough, but his previous two starts he was pitching really well. And he's a guy that just can't catch a break, and it really is unfortunate, because he's a guy that, I really enjoyed watching pitch, and he probably is going to go somewhere else. I don't think the Yankees are going to bring him back, and it's a big what if, because if the Yankees had a healthy Luis Severino, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, who knows what would have happened. Maybe the Yankees would be in a better spot. But it's just one of those things that you just shake your head and you wish things would have went different. But so that's Luis Severino news. Then also, Julio Rodriguez actually became the second Mariner to record a 30-30 season, and this is a guy that actually got off to a little bit of a rough start this year, but he has really picked it up, especially in the second half, and that's one of the main reasons why. I keep getting the Mariners and the Marlins mixed up. The Mariners are where they are right now, but actually, now that I look at it, right now they're on the outside looking in the playoff picture, but only by a half a game. But they've picked it up. They were because they were hovering around 500 for a while, but then they really picked it up and started playing much better baseball. But right now they're struggling a little bit. But we'll get into that later in the show. Also, Matt Olson hit his 50th home run last night. He's having an incredible season with the Braves. And that was, listen, you replace Freddie Freeman with Matt Olson, and, the Braves don't skip a beat. That was a great trade for them. They got him and they got Sean Murphy, too, who was having a good year as well at catcher. So, that was huge. Getting Matt Olson, replacing Freddie Freeman, and he has been awesome for them. That's a guy that if it wasn't for Acuna and Betts, he's got to be up there, for MVP consideration as well. So just want to throw that out there. Also, Orioles closer, Felix Bautista, he had a UCL tear, a partial UCL tear. There's another UCL tear I'll go over again, actually. So he had a partial UCL tear, but it says he actually could pitch again in 2023, which is huge because, he was one of the reasons why the Orioles are where they are, too, is because of their bullpen. When you have Cano back there and Bautista, that was a really good 1-2 punch that they had there towards the back of the bullpen, and that's one of the reasons why the Orioles are where they are. And if he's able to come back, that would be huge because the Orioles are going to really need him in the playoffs. And that's the one thing that I worry about with the Orioles going into the playoffs is they're starting pitching. So we'll just have to see. I mean, the lineup's solid. Bullpen with those two guys has been good. It's the starting rotation that might be a little bit of an issue, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. But the fact that there's a possibility he could pitch again this year is very very encouraging, to say the least. Another thing, so Brandon Woodruff, he had his first career shutout with the Brewers yesterday, and we'll go into more of that. They shut out the Marlins 12-0, and listen, Brewers, that's one of those teams that has been underperforming over the last couple of seasons. They make the playoffs. I mean, Christian Yelich wasn't doing what he did when he first got to the Brewers, but right now they're in first place in the Central. They most likely are going to make the playoffs. It's either they're going to be a wild card team or they're going to win the division. The same thing applies with the Cubs, but the pitching is the strength of the team. Woodruff, Corbin Burns, who basically hit the Yankees the other day with Garrett Cole pitching, which was a pitcher's duel. I wasn't able to watch it, but that was two aces going at it. That's going to be the strength of the team, is their pitching. If their pitching is able to hold up in the playoffs, the Brewers could be a sneaky team when we get there in October. But that's a big deal for him. Yeah. So also, I said I was speaking of UCL tears. So Jason Dominguez, the rookie phenom for the Yankees, who really bursted it onto the scene, had 2 home runs in the Astros series. He homered again against the Tigers. And he's actually he tore his UCL as well. He is going to be out for. I gotta get my charger here. Sorry. See, my laptop is like losing power. Don't want the stream to cut off while I'm going here. So he's gonna be out the rest of the season with the UCL tear, and it's a big loss because this is a guy that was gonna be on the opening day roster going into next season, and now the Yankees, they let Harrison Bader go. They put him on waivers. He's now with the Reds. And now it's like, what are the Yankees going to do next year if Dominguez is going to miss an extended period of time? It's a tough loss. And, yeah, it gave Yankee fans at least a little bit of hope. And right now, it's, it kind of stinks. And Oswald Peraza, he's dealing with an injury too. So now all these young guys that they brought up are now starting to get hurt. So it's really unfortunate. But hopefully he's able to bounce back and he'll be back here. He'll be back next year because everybody's comparing it to Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper had Tommy John surgery, elbow surgery, and he was able to come back and he played some first base. And, he's been able to do okay this season with the Phillies. Dominguez is younger. He's going to be able to hopefully heal faster and get back here because he's going to be a big part of the Yankees' future. And you saw a glimpse of that in, the week and a half that he played. I'm really excited, so hopefully this doesn't derail, his career. But, I think he'll be able to bounce back and the Yankees will be fine. When it comes to Dominguez, they got some other work that they have to do this offseason. And so that's pretty much all the headlines for today that I wanted to get to. And with the Yankees, we'll be touching upon them in the next segment. So we're going to be going over the Yankees-Red-Sox rivalry and why obviously, my opinion is why it's not the same as it once was. So with that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, that will be the topic of discussion for the second segment of today's show. So stick around. We'll be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the second segment of today's show, we're going to talk about why the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry is not the same as it once was. And quick little update for football fans. Aaron Rodgers, if you were watching the game last night, it has been confirmed that he suffered a complete tear of his left Achilles tendon, and he will be out for the season. I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan, and the fact that this happened made me sick to my stomach, really. And, I was really looking forward to see what he was going to do with the Jets this year, even though I'm a Giant fan. But the fact that this happened really really upsetted me because he's been one of my favorite players for so long. And, so I don't know what the future holds for him. But I'm hoping that, he comes back next year and doesn't retire and, can have a great year. But just very devastating news there on that front. But yeah, let's get into now. So that's just football stuff that I just wanted to throw in there. With baseball now, let's get back to the Yankees and the Red Sox. So these two teams actually are going to meet for a 4-game set this season. Right now. In Fenway. I touched upon it in the first segment. It was rained out yesterday, so these teams will meet for a doubleheader today, and then you got tomorrow and Thursday, and that'll be the last time these teams face each other for the season. And I saw something yesterday on Instagram. It was like, this is the battle for last place, and it's so depressing to hear that, because these two teams were like the class of the AL East for a long time. And now they're battling for who's going to finish in last place most likely. Now, right now the Yankees are in last place. And right now I think the Yankees are ultimately going to be the team that finishes in last place. And I was somebody that kept saying, obviously being a Yankee fan, I figured that, eventually they were going to figure it out. Now, I didn't think that I never thought they were winning the World Series this year, but I thought they would at least figure it out, get over 500, and get themselves to finish at least past the Red Sox. Because, the Red Sox, they've made a lot of interesting moves over the years, and their lineup has been very good this year. That's the strength of the team. But I just keep saying, ultimately, it's going to be the pitching that's going to hold them back. But right now, it seems like the Red Sox are going to finish above the Yankees in the standings. And one of the biggest head scratchers is the fact that the Yankees are 1-8 against the Red Sox this year. 1-8. And we'll see what happens in this series, but I expect more of the same. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees got swept, but we'll see. I think the Yankees will at least take 1 or 2 games, and that'll be it. But 1-8 is just horrendous. It is horrible to think about. But the main topic is why the rivalry is not the same. And I think it really all goes back to 2004. Now, I was 4 years old. I don't remember anything from that. My earliest memory is from 2007, the division series against the Cleveland. Then it was the Indians. Now it's the Guardians. That was like my earliest memory of watching baseball. So I don't remember anything from 2004, which thankfully I'm okay with that, because if something like that were to happen now, I don't know what I would do. So. Yeah, I really think it all goes back to that, because that was kind of the beginning of, the Red Sox run. Now, the Red Sox have had some down years. They've finished in last place a couple times in my lifetime. But that all goes away when you look at they won in 2004, they won in 2007, 2013, and 2018. You'll take that. The Yankees, since that time, have only won one championship in 2009. and they have not made it back since then. And I don't know what it is. I think it's really because the Red Sox, and outside of the Red Sox not being good, I just think, the Red Sox have kind of owned the Yankees, and especially in the postseason recently. The 2021 wild card game most recently, Garrett Cole did not pitch well, and the Yankees were basically out of it by the end of the first inning because they were already losing. 2018, Yankees won 100 games, 101 games, and the Red Sox won 108, and they beat the Yankees in 4 games, and they went on and won the World Series. 2013, Yankees weren't very good. Red Sox went on and won the World Series that year as well, and that was an interesting team because that was a team that had, guys like Mike Napoli and Johnny Gomes, and Bogarts was a rookie, Jackie Bradley Jr. You still had Ortiz, Ellsbury, Pedroia. You had Lackey, John Lester. But it was just it was an interesting team that, really just went on and won the World Series. That was a really good team. And, talking to some Red Sox fans, one of my buddies that I met at school, he still, scratches his head on how that team won the World Series. That was very good, but it was a very good team. The 2018 team was probably, at least for me, was probably the best Red Sox team that I've ever seen. That team was a juggernaut, that offense. Mookie Betts, J.D. Martinez, Devers, Bogarts. Steve Pearce ends up winning World Series MVP, I believe. I mean, that team was ridiculous. And I just feel like, and there's just you don't feel like that, these teams don't really hate each other. I mean, they might dislike each other, but you don't feel like that hatred that, back in the day when you had Ortiz and Manny Ramirez, and you had Pedro knocking down Don Zimmer and A-Rod and Varitek getting into a fight. You don't see any of that anymore. There was a glimpse of it in 2018 with Joe Kelly and Tyler Austin when they got into a fight, and you had, the brawl, and I just remember Stanton and Judge being in the middle of that and moving the whole pile into the Red Sox dugout. It just I don't know what it is. It's just it just really is not the same. And it's kind of upsetting because when both of these teams are really good, it's great for baseball. I think people get sick of it when you have, this is another reason why it's a problem. When you have Yankees-Red Sox on Sunday Night Baseball and all you see on social media is people complaining about it, that's when you know that the rivalry is just not the same. Because even when at least one of the teams isn't that good, nobody wants to see that. I think even if the teams were good, nobody wants to see it because that's all that ESPN, they try to get Yankees-Red Sox as much as they can. And people are kind of just sick of it. And, when the Yes Network is advertising that the rivalry's back when they play for the first time for the season, it just, you just don't feel it anymore. You really don't. And I think it's just because we're in a new time. And like I said, the Red Sox have basically owned the Yankees, ever since 2004. 2009, even in 2009, the Yankees, I think, were 0-6, 0-7, 8 against the Red Sox. And then all of a sudden, they swept them at Yankee Stadium. And then the Yankees ultimately ended up winning the division and winning the World Series. That was really the only time. And when the Red Sox are not very good, finishing in last place, and the Yankees are a playoff team. But it's not really that much. The Red Sox have 2013. They have 2018. And this year, 2021, they were rebuilding, and they ended up beating the Yankees in a one-game wild card. And this year, Red Sox, again, not really expected to do much. Nobody really had them doing anything. They're going to finish above the Yankees, most likely. Especially if they, take 3 out of 4 from them starting today with this doubleheader, and then 2 more games after that. So it just, it really hasn't been the rivalry that it once was. And there's so many different factors to it. And will it ever return? Now, the big question is, will it ever return to, what it once was? And I don't really know. I honestly don't think so. Because there needs to be a catalyst, something that, causes there to be, drama, and creates, animosity towards the opposite team. And I feel like that really hasn't happened. Like I said, there was a glimpse of it in 2018 where it looked like that was the case. But yeah, it just never really, nothing really materialized. And, it's kind of just, we're playing the, I mean, they had the Yankees and the Red Sox playing in London a few years ago. And, I mean, the games were exciting. A lot of people say that maybe the balls were juiced because you had 6 runs. Yeah, well, you had 12 runs in total in the first inning, I'm pretty sure. It was like 6-6 after one inning. But I mean, again, nobody, I don't think anyone really cared. Everyone's like, get other teams in there. Although, again, games are exciting, but I mean, if you had the teams with Ortiz and Manny Ramirez, Mike Lowell, Pedroia, Ellsbury going up against, like the 2009 team, for example, that would have been incredible. It was like 10, 11 years too late. But yeah, I think also, yeah, it just has to do with I think I said this already, but just different players in general. Because I really only saw, I mean, I really didn't see Manny Ramirez on the Red Sox when I started watching. I mean, he went to the Dodgers. And that was a guy that Yankee fans could not stand. Him and Ortiz, they killed the Yankees every time they faced him. And you had Papelbon, who was a great closer for the Red Sox. He was another guy that people just didn't like. Beckett, Lester, there were, and obviously Red Sox fans don't like A-Rod. They love Mariano Rivera because of what happened in 2004, blowing the save in Game 4, and that opened the door for the Red Sox to come back and beat the Yankees in 7 games. But they didn't like Jeter because Jeter killed them. It's just, it also has to deal with the players. I mean, yeah, Red Sox fans will boo Aaron Judge, but that's what you're gonna do with star players. You're gonna boo them. But I mean, I guess Devers is who you're gonna boo when it comes to the Yankee fans because he kills the Yankees every time he faces them. He's the present day David Ortiz, I guess, if you want to, make comparisons. But yeah, I mean, a lot of players left. It just isn't the same. They need something that's gonna create a spark that that makes the teams not like each other. And right now, it's just really not. It's really not a rivalry anymore. It just isn't. You got 2 teams that are playing each other for 4 games, and that'll be it. That'll be it for the season. I mean, one of the things that really that kind of just makes me scratch my head is just what the Red Sox did. Letting players go like Bogarts and trading Mookie Betts. What was the deal with that? It just makes no sense. They have not gotten the level of production out of what they got from that trade when they traded Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts has gone on with the Dodgers and has won a World Series, although it was during the COVID season, and he might win another MVP. This year. It's going to be between him and Acuna. So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. They just didn't want to pay him. And I honestly think if Hal Steinbrenner didn't step in, I think Aaron Judge would not have been a Yankee this year. I think Aaron Judge would have been somewhere else. But I think because Hal Steinbrenner stepped in and said, what do you want? We'll give you whatever. And they were able to negotiate the contract and get Judge here for 9 more years. That's the reason why Aaron Judge is a Yankee. So I don't think Brian Cashman was going to, open up his wallet and, make sure Judge was a Yankee. That was because of Hal Steinbrenner. So, but yeah, that's basically it with this segment. Yankees and Red Sox play one more time this year, and then that'll be it. But yeah, rivalry's not the same. Hopefully one day it'll return to what it once was, because it's better for baseball when both teams are good. So with that, we are going to take our second break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll go through the scores from this weekend, and then finally we'll get to the wild card standings to wrap up the show. So stick around. We'll be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the third segment of today's show, we're just going to go over the scores from this past weekend, and we'll try to get into the top performers as well. I'll try to go through the box scores, see who had good games. So that was one of the things I was going to do for Friday's show. I had a list of, a few guys that performed well, at least on Thursday night, and this was for Friday's show. And again, I listened back to the video, and there was no audio at all. And I'm like, well, I can't use that. So that segment was pretty much a waste. I did go into talking about, maybe an Immaculate Grid segment, and I think I might want to save that, and I did talk about this, I think, on Friday, per Friday's show, if you make sure to tune in and watch that. I think I'm going to wait more towards when the season's over, because there's going to be times where there's going to be nothing to talk about. There might be nothing going on. And I think Immaculate Grid would be a nice little, interaction to have with you guys. So that would be a lot of fun. But, so that's basically why you didn't see a top performers list. But, yeah, I'll try to get through that and see. We'll go through the scores and see who had good games. So Friday, we got 3 days to cover. So Friday, Diamondbacks picked up a huge win, winning 1-0 over the Cubs. Right now the Diamondbacks have that third wild card spot, and we'll get into that in the next segment. So they've been playing a lot better. Definitely they heard me saying I would pick either the Reds or the Marlins. So now they're starting to play better baseball. But yeah, top performer there is Zach Gallen for the Diamondbacks. He's had a great year, 15-7, 3.31 ERA. Now a shutout. He's one of the keys. He's why the Diamondbacks. He's one of the reasons why the Diamondbacks are where they are. So yeah, that's top performer right there. The Cardinals, they beat the Reds 9-4. That's a big loss for the Reds. They're trying to keep pace in the wild card standings. The Rays beat the Mariners 7-4. So, they're trying to keep up with the Orioles. And the Mariners, they're trying to keep pace in the West. They still got a chance to win the West. And, that's not what you want there. White Sox beat the Tigers 6-0. Dodgers beat the Nationals 8-5. Marlins, they beat the Phillies 3-2. Blue Jays beat the Royals 5-4. The Orioles were all over the Red Sox 11-2. Braves won 8-2 over the Pirates. A's beat the Rangers, so that was a rough loss for them, because that's another team that just, they started off strong, and now recently they just have been struggling a whole lot. And a lot of people just point to, them trading for Max Scherzer and Aroldis Chapman, because Chapman has blown games for them, and Max Scherzer, in a big spot, has not produced. And I talked about it when they were playing the Astros and how he gave up 7 earned runs. And, yeah, when they needed him to deliver, he just didn't. Padres beat the Astros 11-2. And these are all the scores from Friday. Blake Snell picked up his 13th win. The Twins beat the Mets 5-2. So, again, again, I keep saying it, they're probably going to win the division. So there's really no concern there. Guardians beat the Angels 6-3, and the Giants won 9-8 over the Colorado Rockies. So that's Friday's scores. And then, also the Yankees lost 8-2, and that was the game that Luis Severino got hurt. So, so now we go to Saturday's games. So the Brewers beat the Yankees again, 9-2. Not much really to talk about there. The Twins beat the Mets again, 8-4. Diamondbacks again beat the Cubs. So, actually, now at this point with Saturday's game, they were only a game back, and right now they're 2 games back in the current standings. But we'll get into that in the next segment. Blue Jays again beat the Royals 5-1. Dodgers actually lost to the Nationals on Saturday 7-6 in walk-off fashion. Rays again beat the Mariners 7-5, and then this was actually a game that was a slugfest. 13-12, the Orioles beat the Red Sox to pick up their 90th win. Devers had 4 hits. Abreu had 5 hits for the Red Sox. Trevor Story had 3 hits. Aaron Hicks, he had 3 hits, 3 for 4, 3 RBIs. That was a slugfest. And you know what? Good for Aaron Hicks and Joey Gallo. Because they went from a team that is not making the playoffs to now they're on teams that are going to. Well, Gallo was on the Dodgers last year briefly. But he's on the Twins. They're a first-place team. And guess what? The Orioles are a first-place team as well. So they went from a team that's going to finish in last place to teams that are finishing in first place. So good for them, really. Phillies picked up the win against the Marlins, 8-4. Tigers won 3-1. Cardinals again beat the Reds, so that's really not what you want with the Reds, especially them trying to fight for that playoff spot, losing to the Cardinals, who have just had a disastrous season. The Rangers got back on track. They won 3-2. Astros won 7-5 over the Padres. Pirates beat the Braves 8-4. The Giants won 9-1, so they needed that. They're trying to stay in it as well. And the Angels won 6-2. So those are the scores from Saturday. And then we get to the games for Sunday, for yesterday. Or no, today's Tuesday. What am I saying? For Sunday. So the Yankees won in walk-off fashion 4-3. Corbin Burns was throwing a no-hitter. And actually, the Yankees were getting no hit through 10 innings. I think they picked up their first hit in the 11th inning. Oswaldo Cabrera got an RBI double, tied the game at 1. And then Stanton hit a 2-run home run when the Brewers put up a 2 spot in the top of the 12th. So they tied it at 3, and then Kyle Higashioka had a walk-off double. So Yankees get back down to 71-72. Marlins got a big win over the Phillies. They won 5-4. David Robertson actually picked up the win in that game. And the Rays actually, again, beat the Mariners. So Mariners had a rough series at the Trop, losing those games to the Rays. So Rays are at 88 wins. So they're still hanging around. With all the stuff happening off the field with their best player, they still have kept it together, and they're playing good baseball. So, we're going to see. They could catch up to the Orioles. They really can. It's going to be really close. Tigers, they won 3-2 over the White Sox. Not really much to say there. Red Sox, they picked up a win on the Orioles, 7-3. So, they're still technically in it, like the Yankees. But, we're both not going anywhere. But good win for them. Dodgers, 7-3 over the Nationals, so they're at 87 wins on the season. Braves, they picked up a win, 5-2 over the Pirates. Blue Jays again beat the Royals, so now with that loss on Sunday, Royals are at 100 losses on the season. So, it's just crazy. I was in 10th grade when they won the World Series, and now this team is where they are right now, and it's just, who knows when they're going to be. They're going through the same thing the Orioles went through all those years when they were bad. So, it's just kind of crazy how times are different with that. The Reds, they beat the Cardinals 7-1. So that was good that they got that win. Astros were all over the Padres. They won 12-2. Mets won 2-0 against the Twins to salvage that last game of the series. Cubs won 5-2, so they picked up a win against the Diamondbacks in their series. The Rangers, they won 9-4 over the A's. So the A's, it's crazy because the A's, they looked like they were going to have the worst record in baseball. And right now the Royals have it at this moment in time. Angels win 2-1 over the Guardians, and then the Giants win 6-3 over the Rockies. So, now we get to Monday's games. So the Yankees and Red Sox were postponed. So actually the Braves and the Phillies had a doubleheader, and they split it. Braves won 10-8 in 10 innings. So a lot of scoring in that game. Top of the lineup for the Phillies, their top 4 guys each had 2 hits. Schwarber, Trey Turner. Trey Turner, OPS is at 787. He's almost at 800. So he's really picked it up, ever since that bad game in Miami. Bryce Harper, we're talking about it. He played first base, 296 batting average, 880 OPS. So you kind of hope that Jason Dominguez can bounce back and do the same thing off of his UCL injury. Alec Boehm had 2 hits and 3 RBIs. Acuna, he had 2 hits. Austin Riley had 2 hits. Matt Olson had a hit, 2 RBIs. I think that's the game that he hit his 50th home run or one. Let's see. Let's look right now, really quickly. He had an RBI double. So, but yeah. Then the second game, Phillies won 7-5. Phillies are going to get that top wild card spot. So, yeah, they are. That's a team that could definitely make it back to the World Series, and especially with Zach Wheeler at the top and their lineup. Yeah, Phillies are going to be a tough team, especially if they face the Braves again, because the Phillies are the team that eliminated the Braves from the playoffs last year. So, but yeah, so they split. Nationals, they beat the Pirates 6-2. Orioles won 11-5 over the Cardinals. This is a big series right here. Rangers and the Blue Jays, they started a series, and the Rangers won 10-4 yesterday. Chris Bassett, he picked up the loss. Dunning picked up the win. But yeah, these are big games right here for both of these teams because they're fighting for that third wild card spot, and also the second one as well. So that's a big series right there. Diamondbacks, they picked up a win over the Mets, 4-3. So that's good for them. Rays won 7-4 against the Twins. So right now they're at 89 wins on the season. And like I talked about in the first segment, Brandon Woodruff, he picked up his 5th win on the season. He has a 1.93 ERA in his starts this season. Brewers were all over the Marlins, 12-0. So that's a big win for them. Again, the Cubs are right behind him, and like I said, I've been saying that last series could come down to that, as long as it stays the way it is. The A's, they defeated the Astros 4-0. It's kind of interesting how I don't want to say that the A's don't own the Astros, but I feel like the Astros do have problems with the A's, even if the A's aren't particularly good, because I think they might have swept the Astros last year. I don't know why the Astros have problems with the A's, but yeah. So A's right now the Royals have the worst record in baseball. A's right now sit at 99 losses. So the Cubs, they got back to their winning ways, 5-4 over the Rockies. Drew Smyly picked up the win in that game, his 11th win on the season. And the Angels, in 11 innings, they beat the Mariners 8-5, 68-77. And there's going to be a segment on the show where we go over everything that happened with the Angels this season in more depth, because I think it's really important to touch upon that. And also another headline that I forgot to mention, the Angels are open to trading Mike Trout. And yeah, I think at this point they need to tear it down and get him out of there, because it's not working. It just isn't working. Giants, in walk-off fashion, they beat the Guardians 5-4. And then the Padres beat the Dodgers 11-8. But it's, too little, too late. I mean, with the Padres, thought this team was going to be very good. So many people thought that. I mean, how could they not be with that lineup? And the fact that they sit here right now at 68-77 is just it's mind-boggling. It really is. But I would say run it back. Give it another year. And if it doesn't work next year, then I think it's time to you got to do something. Because, I mean, you look at the run differential. The run differential is really good. It's just they've lost a lot of close games. So, but yeah, it's been a rough go for the Padres. So that's the game recaps from this weekend. Ran through a lot of games. So with that, we're going to take our final break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about the current standings all around baseball. So again, just to remind you guys to tip or donate to the program and get your comments recognized, go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, this really helps the show, and this is for bonus coverage, and it's stuff that you won't see on this broadcast. So if you go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network, that's where you can donate, and we really would appreciate that. So with that, we are going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the wild card races and what the divisional standings are. So stick around. We will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Oh, So yeah, I just put up the Patreon logo. Didn't mean to do that. Clicked on something by accident. But yeah, so we are now in our final segment of the show, and this is talking about the updated standings. So right now, hopefully I have the stuff up. Yeah, okay, so we do have audio, which is good. I have the wrong title for it, but we're going to fix that right now. And there we go. So we got the updated standings. So right now, these are the updated standings in the AL wild card. I'm going to go over the divisional races, but I just want to highlight the wild card races because they are very close. And yeah, so right now the Rays, they sit at the top. They have 89 wins, 56 losses. They're going to have the top spot. It's either going to be them or the Orioles. Barring a huge collapse from one of the teams, which I don't think is going to happen. Then you have the Blue Jays right now. They are a half a game up on the Rangers, and these two teams are playing each other, so this could definitely change. I think these teams are going to win games within their series. I don't think one team's... Well, right now the Rangers took the first game, but I don't think the Rangers are going to sweep the Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays are going to, at least win either tonight or the game, tomorrow. So actually, let's look at the pitching matchup for tonight. So the pitching matchup for tonight is Max Scherzer against Hyun-Jin Ryu. So this is a big start for Scherzer. The way he's been pitching, inconsistent, because he's had some good starts with the Rangers, but that bad one against the Astros, yeah, it's gonna be it'll be interesting to see. Hyun-Jin Ryu, he's 3-2 on the season, 2.65. He was another guy that was out for a big chunk of the season with injuries. But he's been decent. In the starts that he's made, 2.65 ERA is very good. So I think the Blue Jays will take tonight because I just don't see, because the way Scherzer's been pitching and the importance of these games, I just don't see the Blue Jays getting swept. But we'll see what happens. So yeah, that's how the AL wild card standings are, and then also because it's cut off. So you have I keep doing that. The Mariners, Marlins, Mariners. Oh, man. Well, the other problem is because they're also the Marlins. Well, both teams are fighting for wild card spots. Because there've been years where the Marlins weren't that good, the Mariners weren't good. Now both teams got winning records. So, the Mariners right now are a half game back, and they're 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've lost 4 in a row, so they got to get back on the right track. Because I think they will. They are a good enough team where that they'll get back on the right track. I think the Rangers might be the team that's on the outside looking in because Chapman keeps blowing games, and Max Scherzer's not pitching well. It could be a problem down the road. So now let's get into the National League wildcard standings. So right now you have the Phillies at the top, 79-65 on the season. Right now they're 3.5 games up on the Cubs, and the Cubs, they got the second spot. And right now the Diamondbacks 76-69, which now they're the team that's hot right now. And right now the Reds, they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. Marlins are 7-3, Diamondbacks are 6-4. So right now they have the top spot. They're a game and a half up on the Marlins, the Giants, and then the Reds are 2 games back. And this is from MLB at Bat, where the screenshots from there. For both standings. That's what I used for graphics today. And looking at the settings on the OBS Studio, which is what we're using to stream, we got audio. So hopefully you guys all hear what I said. So, but yeah. So right now that's the updated wildcard standings. So the division races. So right now, take a look at that. So the Orioles right now are 3 games up on the Rays. Right now, the Orioles have 52 losses. The Rays have 56. So they're 4 games back in the loss column, and they're 2 games back in the win column. I think the Orioles are going to take it. It's going to be very close, but I think the Orioles, they're destined for greatness, and I think they're going to get the division. And you know what? And props to them, really. That's another team that we'll highlight and just go over what the last several years have been like and how they've gotten to this point. It really is just incredible. How they were able to turn it around, and they got 91 wins. And the Yankees are right now 20 games out of first place, and they just got eliminated from having a chance, which they never had a chance to begin with. Well, beginning of the season, but once the Orioles got into a groove and the Yankees went through their struggles, there was never a shot. But yeah, so the Yankees have officially been eliminated from AL East contention, but they were eliminated weeks ago. But yeah, so the AL Central right now, the Twins' magic number to clinch the division is 11, which they will get unless they have a collapse, which I don't think is going to happen. They have lost 2 in a row. However, the Guardians have lost 3 in a row, so they really didn't. They could have gained some ground, but yeah. So the Twins are going to get the division when it's all said and done, and they're probably not going to get 90 wins. I don't think right now. I don't think they're going to get 90 wins. They might get maybe exactly 90 wins, but I think they're going to finish below 90 wins. They might get like 86, 87 wins. So yeah, that's just the AL Central this year. And then a much better division. You go to the AL West right now. The Astros have a 2-game lead over the Rangers, and they have a 2.5-game lead over the Mariners. I think the Astros are winning the division. Right now, I think the Mariners struggles, and this is just for the division race. I think the Mariners could, obviously, the wild card is definitely a strong possibility for them. I think when it's all said and done, the Astros are going to be the team that comes out on top in that division. The Rangers, that's the team I think is going to be on the outside looking in because of, some of their struggles that they've been going through. But again, and it comes down to a lot of these races that are really close. It really is all going to come down to what it really is going to all come down to what the who's hot and who's not. That really is what it's going to come down to. So, we'll just have to wait and see with that. But now we go into the National League. The Braves, their magic number is 4, so they'll probably clinch the division by the end of the week. Right now they're at 94 wins, so they're going to have 100-plus wins on the season. Brewers right now, they got that 3-game lead over the Cubs. The Cubs are 4 back in the loss column, 2 back in the win column, and I think that's similar to that's the same as the Rays, with the AL East. But yeah, so that race could really come down to that last series. But Cubs, if they could at least go into that series, obviously with 2 games or 1 game, that division's up for grabs. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. And then the Dodgers, their magic number right now is 7, so they'll clinch the division at some point. The Braves will do it probably sooner, but the Dodgers, they should have this wrapped up by next week. So that's all the standings. That's the standings update. It's gonna be again. I keep saying it. It's gonna be tight. Some of these races towards the end, those wild card spots, and that's what makes it. That's what makes it more exciting. You can have your opinions on the playoffs and the expanded playoffs and how some teams don't deserve to make it, but at least from a positive standpoint, it's exciting because you have all these. You have more series now. There's now the 2-game wild card series. So it's kind of like wild card weekend in the NFL, even though the NFL is always, in my opinion, going to take that. I don't think that'll ever surpass it, but it makes it fun. And again, it just, if you get hot at the right time, the sky's the limit for what you can do. And, you saw with what happened with the Phillies last year. Nobody expected them to make it to the World Series, especially how they started off the year. I mean, they fired Joe Girardi. They had a losing record, I think, at one point. And then Rob Thompson took over, and then that just changed everything. And they ended up making it to the World Series. And, a few things go their way. Maybe they could have been the team to hoist the trophy. And they're going to try to get back there. I don't know if they will. It's just the Braves are really good. And they were really good last year. The Dodgers were really good last year. But it ended up being the Padres and the Phillies in the championship series. So it's really hard. Like, you could say, oh, this team can definitely, make it to the World Series. The Braves, of course, can make it to the World Series. But, again, all it takes to catch a team at the wrong time, a team that's hot, and you could be going home, which that can very well happen in this playoffs this year. I'm not saying it's going to, but it's something that you have to keep in perspective, that it's a possibility. It is 100% a possibility. But I think the Braves should go to the World Series. And once the playoffs come around, I'll make predictions. But it's going to be hard to stop the Braves. The Dodgers, they have been playing very well as of late. Their trade deadline was very good. So they're kind of, although there's been better Dodger teams, on paper at least, last year's team especially, but, the Dodgers, I think, will have a say in that as well. The Phillies, so we'll just have to wait and see. And, the Brewers, they have good pitching. The problem with them is their offense. And, listen, Christian Yelich has had a good year, so you're hoping that carries into the postseason. So, they beat up on the Yankees this weekend. So, I got this. Well, I didn't really get to see up close because I, was away for the weekend. So I really wasn't paying attention to that. And kind of happy I didn't because, between Severino getting hurt and, them getting no hit for 10 innings and then getting beat up on Saturday, I was happy. And now football is back. So that's, with the Yankees not being where they usually are, at least football is back to kind of, keep my mind off of that. But obviously with the postseason with baseball, going to be paying very close attention to that. And it should be a very good postseason. And it's going to be here before you know it. We're already in September. I remember opening day like it was yesterday, and I'll say that a lot. It's just time goes very fast. And just like this show went very fast. We now did a full hour show live stream on social media, across social media, and it's over already because again, that's just how fast time flies. So that's basically a wrap on the show. We will be back tomorrow, full show, once again, recapping scores, highlights, headlines. I was trying to, again, getting things mixed up. Headlines, highlights, all that, and current news. So until then, I thank you for joining us, the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Make sure to subscribe and leave a favorable comment or review. Leave a like on the video. Comment on what you thought of the show today, your thoughts. I'll try to get to every comment as much as I can. And for exclusive content, once again, visit our Patreon and stay connected on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We're trying to get those up and running. So, until tomorrow, I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder signing off. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys then. Take care.